Hey guys, here's the gear for today. Continuing on with the Green Odyssey, meaning the green handle of the Zenith B35 brush. This is a custom handle by Zenith. We all got together as a group, the wet shaving subreddit, and had the handle done. But if you like the knot, the B35 from Zenith is the same exact thing. And the handle shape is going to be the same. It'll just be that normal ivory color, which I like, from Zenith. And I was actually thinking about getting this brush before they announced that our little group was going to do it. And so I was extra happy to be able to buy this one, knowing that I was going to get one anyway. But I ended up with it, but just with the special notes and the special engraving from the little forum I'm a part of. And Stirling was such a help at getting that brush shipped internationally, because there are all kinds of boar hair shipping regulations and things like that. Today I'm going to be doing Iniquity for him. It's another clone dupe that Stirling put together a while back, and I don't know what cologne it's for. That should be in the description. I have a scoop mark in there at the top, so I have tried it before. It's pleasant and enjoyable. We'll see if it's good enough to keep around. I mean, I could throw away all of my soaps and only shave with the Stirling tubs that I have, and with the amount that I use, which is about 0.4 grams per shave. I could own what I have right now without buying any more soap. I could never buy any more soap. I could throw away everything but Stirling, and my Stirling collection would last me farther than the rest of my life, and half of it could probably go to my son. And so I don't need to keep even a good Stirling scent. I need to keep the really good and the great ones. Those are the ones I really kind of need to keep around, right? At least that's kind of my line of thinking. This has probably been a couple years since it's been used. This is the smaller tub, the 3-ounce tub that they have, because this was a seasonal release, a Black Friday release a few years ago. I'm going to be using the Tungsten 74 from Personna, a vintage blade. It's thicker than other blades, and so it did not behave well in my Game Changer yesterday or the Pearl Flexi. Both of those are more modern razors, and I think they're just not designed to handle the minute differences in geometry. So what do? We step back to razors that were made more in this time period for this vintage blade. This is a marathon one, because these were known to be long-lasting blades even by people who were not marathoners like me. And so we're going to see if that works out for me or not with this particular blade. So this is a vintage short comb razor. This is kind of the common bar handle. In comparison, I'm going to show you a long comb. Now, some of the long combs, I would assume, also come with the bar handle, so that's not an identifier. All different kind of handles came with the new razors, and new we're talking about in a parenthetical, in quotes, because it's a literal. The word new was used because the razor before it was called the old type or something like that. This is the ball end handle because of the ball at the end. And it is hollow, just like the common bar. They both have pressure fitted, maybe it's called a ferrule at the top that screws in. The handles can be interchanged if you feel like it. Both the top caps are pretty much identical. Yeah. Identical top caps. The base plate. That's where you're going to start seeing differences. And I've talked about it with you guys before. I think Warren is especially somebody who I've talked about online about the differences between these base plates. because it's a huge difference once you know what to look for and once you've actually shaved with both of these. There are so many razors that have a base plate profile like this. See the cutaway? You see how there's this middle section here. It's kind of got some soap scum on it because I haven't used this very much. It's got that white area. That doesn't touch the blade. The blade only goes where this dark area is right here. Well, this guy right here, look at him. There's no white area right there. There's no groove because all this touches the blade. So that means a more secure grip on the blade, a smoother experience in the shave. And they just happen to have both open combs because all the news do, except for the hybrid tech. But all the news have the open combs. And if you look at them from the side, if you didn't know about the cutaway trough here on each side, if you didn't know that this one went all the way to the edge, you could look at them from the side and you can see how the long comb here goes farther down than the short comb does. From the bottom, they look pretty much identical. We'll use the long comb another day, but for today, let's do the short comb. This is my favorite of the news because of its exceptional smoothness, while also being a good cutter. So we'll put the Personna blade in there, always holding it with open hands so that I don't get myself cut. Ball end handle, the other one, has a little bit better balance, I think. See, this one's very head weighted. The center of balance is really close to the head. Let me get my face wet. It took 4 passes and a whole lot of work, extra strokes and work and strategy to get a good cut yesterday when I tried to use the more modern razors that I talked about. So hopefully today will go better now that we fall back to some razors that are contemporaries of this blade. We'll load it up. I'm going to get the bowl is right. You know what? Hey, let's use my Dollar Tree bowl. Let's switch. Love this one. It's terrific. But I want to move over and use this one for a little bit. I have used it already in this channel a few times now recently. It's a melamine bowl from the Dollar Tree. I epoxied decorative glass beads that also were from the Dollar Tree into the bottom of it. They held up for a few shaves. So let's see if they keep going. And as I load, if it looks like I'm going to get a bunch of stuff dripping out, I'll hold it over the bowl there so that we can conserve soap. Of course, I just told you that I've got 60 years of Stirling soap, just Stirling. I don't really need to conserve it. Maybe I won't. I keep it lightly wet. It's my policy. That seems to be a nice balance. If it's too dry, the brush, if it's too dry, then you don't pick up as much soap. If it's too wet, you also don't pick up as much soap. It's this, and so where I've figured out where I like to keep it seems to be that happy medium. All right, so 15 seconds is really all I need. Starting out at the 01 right there. $10, $11. I guess I need to go to the 16 if I want to do a 15-second load. And there we go. I'm going to rake the excess into the bowl. Now just a little bit came off the side, the froth. Yeah, that's a nice cologne. Very pleasant. I don't think it's going to, definitely not one to kind of offend people. Now, because the name that Stirling has given it is Iniquity, that makes me think, there's some kind of the actual cologne that it's after. named after or styled after is something called a sin, or something like that, some dastardly name. But this doesn't really smell like a dastardly scent. It doesn't smell sinful. It really kind of smells nice. All right. The glass beads in the bottom of the bowl, they do help to agitate the lather, but they're mainly there to keep the brush from sliding down into the bowl. As usual, the beginning part of this process is to mix, and the purpose is to take the water that's all in the brush from its soak and get that water to combine with the lather that was just loaded onto the tips, the soap that was on the tips. So once you feel like everything's kind of equalized, you can start adding water. Or if everything just kind of feels dry and you can hear the noise change, it wasn't as much water in your brush as you maybe wanted, or whatever, but it just feels dry, then I will definitely jump in with the water a little sooner. I added about 20 milliliters of water in there, and so you'll be able to see the lather change. Right now it's very, very soupy and bubbly, but our job now is to work the two together, the soap and the new water. When you add a lot of water right away, you could go right to your face with it and then finish everything on your face, once you get it somewhat mature, right? And then it will definitely thicken up on your face as you keep mixing. But I find it at least easier to mix in the bowl. This brush is not very... This handle is not very ergonomic. It's definitely a handle that favors the face latherer instead of the brush latherers. Instead of the bowl latherers, because there's not really a whole lot. Let me change my grip. Not really a whole lot to hold on to. It's kind of short and chubby and stubby. If you do come down and grip it like this, it seems like a better grip, but you can see the lather starting to come up, and looks like maybe it's going to be a mess. It's definitely, and it's a heavy brush because it's just so big. So now let's take a look at the lather consistency. What was once a watery, bubbly mess is not that anymore. That's some good looking lather. Let's just go with it. A little bit more water now. Yesterday was ineffective. A lot of patchy shaving because the blade was just not a good match for the geometry that the razors wanted to hold it at. And so I actually still feel a little bit of irritation in certain spots that I probably had to just work really hard at. It was, that kind of tugging where you don't actually have the blade edge right near the skin. And so it's almost as if the edge is touching the hair. And pulling at the hair, but it's pulling at it higher up from the skin level, and so it just kind of bothers the hair, and it might cut it, but that was not enjoyable. It was definitely a tuggy feeling. Yeah, that's a good scent. It's not, it may be kind of mild from the tub, but it's very present right now while shaving. Maybe a 6 out of 10 in terms of scent strength, so it's very enjoyable. I wouldn't mind having this as a cologne, but I've got a bunch of them already that maybe I like a little better, so I don't think I'm going to pick this one up. Working it into my skin. Brush is definitely showing plenty of backbone. Fairly easy to splay. Some of the bristles, like the top, third, is splaying pretty easily. It's really funny because I believe that I've had other shaves where I felt like maybe half the brush was splaying easily. And so it seems like we're taking a step backwards, but that's all right. I'm just going to, still a young boar brush. The uses will be in the description if you're curious. Are we at like maybe 18 now or something? 19? Can't remember. Yeah, it's a nice. I've got this fragrance cloud around me, so this is one of those cologne scents that Stirling does. That the soap is a scent experience. There are some colognes that they do that are just very calm and sometimes even hard to pick out when you're shaving. You got to get your nose down into the bowl, to really get the scent of it, and that's not the case here. All right, here we go, guys. Short comb with the Personna 74. That is a lot better than yesterday. How about that? Much better. One day of growth, as you can probably infer from me saying that I shaved yesterday. Always, even if I'm holding it here at the end, I'm keeping that light touch. Now it's not moving through the hairs like butter. I think this might be the 19th shave on this blade. And once I get down to kind of this line right here, I've discovered that years ago, I discovered that if I keep going this direction down, I just end up with cuts, especially, where was it? Especially over here. And so what I learned to do, and this just because I was trying something, I switch and go from bottom to the top, to up in tiny little strokes. And it rarely ever gives me cuts. Just right along the borderline where the beard stops. All right. Oh yeah, the smell. I didn't know the smell was going to be this around me. This is very nice. Guys, this was more comfortable because it wasn't cutting hairs. Over here, I can just feel the stubble, and it's a patchy kind of experience. Almost like it, as it went by, it cut, not leaving certain patches uncut, but it's almost like it picked a little area and then it said, okay, I'm going to leave 10% of you guys as if you hadn't been touched at all. And part of the other ones had been cut, so let's not going to worry about that too much right now, because that was the first pass. And so maybe this second pass here will kind of polish off the rest. but the more modern razor blades have kind of done better. I didn't go back for more water. Just a little splash of water between the passes. I enjoy that just as kind of a luxury. Some people don't actually do it, but I generally do. So we'll quick switch to cross grain now. Sometimes that's the way it goes. If you have a nice experience, it could be comfortable because it's not cutting any hairs. If you're having trouble finding your angle, I like to use my ears and listen to the cutting, and I do the shorter strokes so that I can kind of minutely make adjustments on the fly. But err on the side, generally speaking, err on the side of having the blade have a smaller angle. That also means the handle being a little farther away from your face. Instead of, I usually try a balanced approach, which in this case looks like about this angle. But if I ever feel like, am I getting, especially in the looser skin on my neck, I will open the handle angle up just a little bit. It's a more conservative approach, as I can just be careful with the blade, and it's a more slicing motion because of the angle, the smaller angle of the blade. And so it's less likely to give me irritation. And then if it goes well, I can re-angle back to a more balanced approach, or I can feel that, hey, that riding the cap a little bit worked well, and I can just leave it at that. Okay, so now what I felt like right there was that part of was that I should be careful because of that blade edge. I could stir up some irritation. I've got a cold hand of water right here, so I'm going to use that to soothe my skin. And yes, see, on this side, I need to work. That is just not being very effective at all. Over here, this feels terrific. Now I can feel stubble if I move in the opposite direction, but here I don't feel the stubble if I move with the grain. Over here, I definitely still do. Well, this guy may be more comfortable with the razor than the other modern razors from yesterday. It's still not a good one to use with this blade, as it turns out. Well, I think I'll go ahead and use lather instead of just, of course, the Stirling has probably left a little bit of the water that I rinsed with, probably kind of woke up a little bit of the residual lather there, so I probably could actually shave with this without applying another pass of suds. But I've got it, plus more, so might as well use it. Paul, I believe it was, I just today answered online a couple of comments he talked about, and why not talk about them now just for grins to share with you guys. He talked about alum and witch hazel, and he didn't see me using alum and was just wondering why I didn't. And the reason is I don't really find that alum offers me anything constructive to my shave. Alum has antiseptic properties. Well, the alcohol splash, a witch hazel toner that I might use after the shave, like Thayer's, those have antiseptic properties, so I don't need the alum for that. Detecting the quality of the shave is diagnosing. Not diagnosing, but just revealing the quality of your shave is another purpose. Some people say that they use alum for, but I don't see a point in that. If I can't feel razor burn without using alum, then who cares if alum shows it up? You know, it's like a critical mother-in-law. If she's not there to gripe, then isn't everybody more happy? She's not going to bring anything beneficial to the table. She's just going to tell you of some areas where you need to correct things, right? And so why do that if you can't? And a lot of times also just that cool splash of water will also act as a little bit of a detector. You'll feel, but it'll just be more comfortable than alum. So I don't use alum for that. It's used, my understanding is acne. If you have acne, it can help you with that. If you do have acne, then maybe do some research if you want to try that and see if that's true, because it could really help you. I've also heard for some people that I trust that the Osma, OSMA alum block is noticeably better than other brands. And so if you do plan to try out alum, and you want to, maybe if you have acne or you want to make it part of your system, look at that Osma. I don't know if it's more expensive or not. I think it might be, but I think those blocks last a while. So you can do some research on Osma, see if you can find other guys who say the same thing. I don't need it for soothing properties after my shave. I found a registered nurse who wrote up a website on alum, talked about how it lowered inflammation and was soothing after the shave. My nice cool rinse water at the end of the shave does exactly those two things. Matter of fact, when I put alum on, usually it's really kind of irritative, almost always. And my face may not feel anything at all, and I'll put the alum on and it irritates me and stings a little bit. So that's why I don't use alum. I do still use it sometimes. If I was shaving right before leaving for an event or somewhere I had to be presentable, in the rare case where I would cut myself with a small cut, the alum will be the savior there because it will comfortably stop that bleeding there. Let me go ahead and rinse my face. But I just don't cut myself very much. And if I do, it's very small and it kind of stops bleeding on its own. You know, I'll just kind of wipe at it with my thumb and it's done. So I don't really need it anymore. And if it's a big cut, then I go to the styptic pencil, which always fixes big cuts. It stings more than alum. And so for small cuts, I would use alum. But if the alum is not good enough the alum block is not good enough to stop the bleeding, you have to step it up to the styptic pencil and it always works. So yeah, this side of my face still has some stubble left. I think what's going on is my approach angle. This blade is not really working optimally, and so my angle has to be just perfect. And the angle that I can normally use that works effectively does not work in this case with this razor. So I'm gonna have to change it up. I think my stubble doesn't go straight north-south right here. I think my directional growth moves a little bit more toward my chin. And so even a cross-grain movement across that, it's not a pure cross-grain stroke, whereas over here it kind of is. And so this is done quite well over here. So third pass here. I do feel a little bit of irritation in my skin from the blade. So I think I'll move on to another razor. All right, so we're gonna, why don't we change? I rarely do this. Kind of unnatural for me. This just doesn't seem to be as sharp a blade. I think even my 100-use Nasset probably did better than this. It'll be interesting to see if I discover some other razor that sets this blade at a good angle for me. This is actually a cross grain pass right here because my grain comes down and makes a turn. And so me doing this is a 90-degree cross grain. Here's the tricky part. Slow and careful, light touch. Got swirls and things like that going on here. Just taking my time and being careful. And yeah, I definitely have. I just don't feel like chasing the stubble anymore. So I'm just going to leave it. I work from home right now. And so I'm going to just exercise that luxury and not chase down a close shave today. We'll try it. Will the long comb be better? I think it offers a little bit more exposure than the short comb. And so with this stiffer blade, you know what that could do? That could really nullify the fact that it has less blade support from the bottom, because that stiffer blade, could kind of be its own support. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. We'll save this long comb for use in the next shave. I think that may have been 4 passes as I was trying to chase the stubble. And we still have, I bet I could probably make 3 passes out of what's left. Definitely 2. So that 15 seconds continues to be plenty of lather. This brush is the consistent thing here as I bring out Stirling tubs that I haven't used in a long time. And so I could probably lower the load time if I felt like it. What are we going to use today? You know what? I used Diamond the other day, and I really like the scent. I am smelling a little bit of the cologne right now. Now, my time is drawing short here on the video, so what I want to do is pause you. This is that kind of thick-ish balm that Barrister and Mann had to do during COVID. And there we go. The face being a little wet helped to easily spread that around. And I love the smell of this scent. Big fan. So we'll try the long comb tomorrow. 15 seconds was the load time, and 20 milliliters of water was what was used. And that does seem to be a continuing, consistent trend. I'm going to wash out the brush. The epoxy is holding up well with the beads. All worked well today. Hairdryer treatment on the brush. And here's what it looks like after the hairdryer. Nice and fluffy, but not crispy. I didn't go all, I was conservative, very gentle. I use only the cool temperature at high speeds. That's my guess right now at how I want to move this along. The warm is probably fine, but you just have to be careful about how close you get the hairdryer to it. I've got other videos that show how I do it if you're interested in that. Using USS SpongeBob's hairdryer method from over on the Reddit wet shaving. I see lots of split tips, and we'll hope that continues on. Very good, very good. Oh, that Diamond. Oh man, that's a good balm. I like that. That, my friends, is today's shave. Told you the water and the soap load time. The Diamond was the scent here is not conflicting with the Iniquity for him. So that's great. I'm a happy camper, except for the blade and the razor. That was not a good match. It was better than the previous modern razors, but hopefully we find something that climbs higher on the comfort and effectiveness scale. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You guys, thank you for watching. Good night.